Hey guys, it's Lianne Bridges, and I'm author, speaker, and human potential catalyst and coach. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit this evening about the difference between consciousness and vibration and frequency. You hear maybe some people talk about them interchangeably, and how that is related to our physical being, our body, our health and wellness, and also our physical reality around us. And in particular, how it relates to what many people are talking about, the Great Awakening, the Great Ascension. So stay tuned. It'll just be a quick video here, just to bring up to speed on some of these ideas that's been kind of floated around. So first of all, consciousness. What is consciousness? Consciousness is the thoughts, the psychological aspect of us, how our mind works in combination with our emotions. So there are levels of consciousness where when we're at low levels of consciousness, where we're in fear or guilt or shame, we have, those are more like emotions, but there are thoughts and patterns of thoughts that correlate with that. I'm not good enough, I did something wrong, or that other person is such and such. And we also have higher levels of consciousness. There's actually a kind of a ladder of consciousness where one is greater than the other. So the very lowest level of consciousness is shame, where I feel I am bad. Guilt is just a little boost up from there. I feel I've done something bad. And fear is even higher than that. So a lot of people say fear is the lowest level of consciousness. It isn't. Fear is higher. And then anger is higher than that. And courage is what actually divides us from the levels of consciousness, again, thoughts and emotions with our so our thoughts combined with our emotions. The level of consciousness that starts to create life and perpetrate life is courage. When we're at that level, and the higher levels of acceptance, more kind of intelligence, of creative thought, of love, of compassion. Those are higher and higher states of consciousness. Well, so there's consciousness, there's also vibration. So vibration is the frequency that you emit from your consciousness. So it's like energy that you can't see, kind of just like gravitational force is something that we can't see, but we know exists. It's the same as we're learning more and more that there's an energetic vibration that we emit. And through that energetic emission, we can affect the world around us. We can affect the plants, the people, the weather even. We can attract things with that vibration or detract things. And so there's this consciousness, and there's frequency or vibration, and there's also the third element, which is our physical reality. So our physical reality is our physical environment. Our first is our body, which we live in, which is, a physical element made up of chemical, electrical impulses and hormones and so forth. And then there's the environment around us. So they all are almost like, if you can imagine, a circle with consciousness, frequency, and our physical reality. And when we can change our physical reality, for example, putting higher, we could always say higher vibration food, or food that has very good nutrients and light, energizes us, can help our frequency. It can also affect our consciousness. And similarly, the other way around, when we eat things, or we are drinking water that's polluted, or that we're in air that's has some pollution in it, or when that can have a negative impact on our frequency, lowering our frequency. Like when we drink alcohol, it's fun, but it lowers our frequency. But when we think about how that physical aspects can affect our consciousness as well. So when we're feeling low, we can have thoughts and negative feelings, and vice versa. We can have negative feelings, be stressed, and that can affect our physical, which both of those impact our frequency and our vibration. What conscious awakening is about becoming more or you hear about the ascension process or people awakening. In time gone by, people would have called that maybe something like becoming more enlightened, or becoming more spiritual, or spiritually aware. But what's happening on the planet is, through various reasons, through mass communication, through many different things I'll get into maybe in another video, there are more and more people awakening to higher levels of consciousness, or even just higher levels of awareness. So realizing, even just very simply, that their thoughts are starting to affect their physical well-being. That when I think things about fear, create stress, and that affects my physical body. Or when I walk into a beautiful room that's lovely and decorated nice, it actually has a positive impact on my thoughts and my emotions and then my physical body. And so that raises my frequency. And what we start to realize is that as more and more people get to their breaking point, where they're in a crisis mode, or they're under pressure, or what's happened over the last year, where we feel more and more boxed in, or we're angry, or we're in fear, those are all providing us opportunities to awaken to us a greater level of awareness of ourself, of our thoughts. Allows us to step back from the pain, from the suffering, and say, well, what's really causing that? Is it the thing outside of us, or is it my own level of consciousness? And can I change that? And synchronicity starts to happen. A certain video will come across, and you'll talk to someone, and they'll give you some information, and it starts to open up the possibilities of greater and greater self-awareness, which relates to being able to see our consciousness and how our consciousness affects our physical reality, our vibrational reality, and all vice versa, because they all are interconnected. And as we awaken more and more, we have the power and the choice to make changes on one that will affect the other two. So that's the process that we all go throughout history, but it's being sped up right now at a greater level. And it always is in a time of upheaval. When things are very quiet and we're in our comfort zones, not a lot changes. We see that in our regular life. But now with time of upheaval that's prolonged for a period of time, we all want to go back to the way we were. But it's actually this upheaval, this pressure. It's like pressure of carbon under great pressure becomes a diamond, and that's happening to all of us at different levels. And it's not that there's anything wrong with some people who are awakening slower or faster or not at all. If you can imagine, we live many, many, many lifetimes. And if you can picture, maybe you had 365 lifetimes, and each one represents a day in a year. So you can imagine in a year, sometimes you want to go on vacation, sometimes you want to sleep in, sometimes you want to work hard, sometimes you want to party, sometimes you want to do all these different things in a year. Your lifetimes are the same, and each one of us. So there are some people who decide this lifetime they want to party, or this lifetime they want to have a vacation, or go on an adventure, or do something different. We're not all on the same path. So we don't want to judge another that are not awakening or not woke or whatever we want to call it. It's all opportunities for us to awaken. But part of awakening often comes a lot of challenges, because the things that have been hidden within us, the things we weren't conscious of, hence awakening, we become conscious to, come to the surface, and they face them. So our judgments, our fears, our things that make us angry, our past traumas, all start to come to the surface. And you can see that on a collective level that's happening. And so there's a lot of resistance to awakening, because on some level we know that these are the things we have to face. So if we can be compassionate first with ourselves, because it is a very bumpy road. We don't just awaken and then that's it. We have a bit of a view of awareness, and then we close back up, and then the old patterns come back, and then we get maybe something else hits us, and we get the chance to bring up some of those old wounds, and then we look at it, or we don't. We push them back in, and it's a very rock and roll process for each one of us. So if we can be compassionate first with ourselves, and we can extend that compassion out to others, that everyone is on this road with different paths, and some are on their holidays, some are working really hard, some are sleeping, some are doing all sorts of different things. Some are having, joyful sex, and some are having friendships, and some are meditating. So all of it is good. All of it is great, and it's all perfect. It's perfect for each one of us. So just wanted to bring a couple of thoughts in there to remember that our consciousness is our thoughts and our emotions together, and it impacts and is impacted by our physical reality, our body, the physical reality we live in, and if it's very cluttered or very neat and beautiful, and also our vibrational frequency. They all connect to each other, and ultimately our frequency is what we create from. So if we have a higher level of frequency, we create more, we manifest quicker, we manifest more what we desire. When we are at a lower frequency, we create and attract that. So when we're in fear, we attract more things that will create fear, and so forth. I hope that's been helpful, and stay along with us as we're in this crazy time together. We one day will look back at this and say this was the most amazing time to be alive. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, but I know we'll all get through this one way or the other, and I want to send love to you all. Namaste.